Just finished West Ham United 1, Everton 1. Jacko, what do you make of that?
It's really odd because I find myself feeling quite positive about the fact that we didn't lose. And for me, that's a bit of an indictment of where we are at the moment, because really, I genuinely think by half-time we ought to have been 3 up, something like that. I couldn't see Everton's goal very clearly, but it looked scrappy to me. So in a way, quite disappointed that we didn't win, and I think it's kind of the Moyes mentality that we didn't win. You got to, we respect the point, that kind of thing. I don't think we played particularly badly. I think we were okay for long periods, but I think we kind of let ourselves down a little bit. First touch was often quite poor. We were never looking for the second ball, and I think for a lot of the game that was really the difference. Everton weren't nearly as good as I was expecting them to be, but they were good enough for their part. I can't say they didn't deserve a point, to be honest, but there we go. It is what it is.
Are you happy with a point given the circumstances? Obviously our fixtures coming up, we've got Leicester and City, Liverpool away, Liverpool at home, obviously got Brighton in there as well, but we've got a tough round of fixtures. We're down at the bottom of the table. Is a point enough today?
Probably not, to be honest. I think it was a game we needed to have won. I think we'll struggle to get anything at Leicester. I think Brighton will be a really interesting game and an important game, because we really ought to beat them. Yeah, quite, without any real problem. But they're a strange side at the moment because they very inconsistent, bit like we are, to be honest. But yeah, genuinely speaking, I think 3 points was what we really needed today. I think I was talking to Chris and Tony earlier, and I genuinely think we'll be okay this season. But I think it's going to be a struggle, and it's going to probably be within the last couple of weeks of the season before we can be confident that we're okay. So really, I think where it comes from is that I think had we gone in at half-time 1-0, I think we'd have won that game comfortably. But I think the fact that Everton equalised when they did, they've probably come out in the second half thinking we ought to be losing, and we're not, and we're right in this game. And the second half, I think they had a little more bite to their game, really, and that's something we lacked a little bit. I'm disappointed. I really think we should have won, but we did. It's horrendous to admit it, but I'm not unhappy that we didn't lose.
Obviously, 18th of January today, is just over halfway into the transfer window. David Moyes' bench today had 4.5 defenders on it. I'm going to say Masuaku's half playing in midfield, but he's naturally a defender. One striker, and obviously the keeper. Reinforcements needed, in your opinion?
Absolutely. I think we're lucky, and this is no news to anybody. I think I think Zabaleta played reasonably well today, but I think we're lacking at right back. I think we really. I saw in a week that allegedly we were looking for a loan for Ross Barkley, and I think he's the exact sort of player we need in midfield, a good box-to-box central midfielder. I like Haller a lot, but he just can't play as a lone striker for me. So I think we need support there. My real worry is that we'll get to the end of the transfer window and we will hear the same kind of thing that we've heard so many times before, which is we tried really hard to sign this player and that player and this player, but they just didn't want to come to us. And genuinely, I would be surprised if we sign anyone of any real consequence by the end of this window, and that worries me a little bit.
Last question for you, Jacko. Tomorrow is a 10-year anniversary since David Sullivan and David Gold took over. A lot of focus on them today, the protest earlier on and such like. What's your opinion on the whole thing in general?
When Gold and Sullivan first took over, I was very grateful that they did, because I know how close we were to going into administration. So I will always be grateful to them for that. But that has to be tempered against the fact that particularly when they moved us from Upton Park to the London Stadium, there were a lot of promises made which David Gold has tried to pretend were not set in stone. They were only hopeful kind of aims and optimistic promises. But to be honest, part of what got people to support them and be on board with the move were things that really they haven't delivered. So I think really, my understanding of what their intention was after 10 years was that we would be in the Champions League or challenging for the Champions League, and I think we're a very, very long way from that at the moment. So, if I had to score them out of 10, I'd struggle to give them more than 4 out of 10 for these past 10 years.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Jacko. Pleasure as always.